If I may, I'll just say hello to everyone. This is the third session, I think it is, no, the fourth even probably, of the week of the joint BEBA and EBCC event. I chair the Egyptian-British Chamber of Commerce here in the UK, and I have great pleasure in inviting you all here today. I'm going to get out of the way, and Karim Refaat from N Gage is going to moderate the session with you all. But the guest of honor and speaking today is His Excellency Yehia Zaki, who has been involved with the Suez Canal project for much longer than the current role, because, you know, going back, no doubt you'll probably cover that, yeah, but it was involved in the original designs and the dreams that are becoming reality. So I'm going to hand over to you, Karim, to manage today's session. But on behalf of the Chamber, can I just say to all of you, welcome. And one of the things that we commented on in the very first session today is that virtual conferences are great, but they're not the same as turning up and being able to go and have a cup of coffee with people. So we would point you to a very new platform which is appearing, which is called the Trade Accelerator, created jointly by ourselves at the Chamber and BEBA. So the Trade Accelerator is in effect the virtual world to wander around the corridors, have cups of coffee and be able to talk to people. So have a look for that, have a look at it, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you there. But a good day today. Karim.
Thank you very much, Ian. Thank you very much, everyone. Well, first of all, I'm Karim Refaat. I'm the chairman of the N Gage Group. We're a public strategy and government affairs firm. I would like to start off by thanking Engineer Yehia Zaki, the BEBA and the EBCC, for the honor they give me in and allowing me to be sitting to moderate this panel. Just a bit of some quick house governance rules for the House. So my understanding, as I've coordinated with Engineer Yehia Zaki, we would allow him some 20 or 30 minutes for him to expose a presentation that he's prepared especially for this session. Afterwards, we will open the floor for questions, Q&As, and discussions, comments, and what have you. I think very basically, we all know that this should be one of the most important sessions. The zone is established as one of the key tools for the Egyptian government to attract investments and promote exports and localized industries. And I guess we have the pleasure and the honor to listen from Engineer Yehia in person, who has a lot of details to share with us today. So without further ado, Engineer Yehia, the floor is your excellency. Please.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Karim. It's really my pleasure to be with you here today and talk again about the economic zone and give you insight of where we are, where we're going, and how can we mutually find business opportunities in the near future, inshallah. As Karim has mentioned, I have a quick presentation to show you. I'm happy to share this presentation. I've arranged with Karim, so anyone that would like to have it, so it is available. It has more information than what I'll be talking about, so I'm just going to show you some slides, but it has some informative information about the subject. Okay. Now, this presentation is talking about the outlook and opportunities within the Suez Canal Economic Zone. And basically, I want to start by a particular date. It was the 21st of January of this year, where I was in London. Actually, that was the last time I was in London. Again, in an event hosted by EBCC and BEBA, where I've addressed a distinguished list of guests and talked about the potential of the Suez Canal at the time, Suez Canal Economic Zone, and the strategic orientation and where we're going and so on. So I thought today it's a good opportunity to walk you through what we had in mind at the time and where we are now and how we are looking to the future. So I'll be focusing in this presentation on the outlook and opportunities. But to be able to do that, I think for the sake of some of you that are not really very familiar with what do we have in the zone, I'll go very quickly through some introduction to the economic zone and what it has and what sort of incentives that are offered there. I also need to mention that I had the honor to address the British Investors Forum. His Excellency, the Ambassador, invited me to address this forum on the 27th of October, and part of what I'm presenting today has been also presented in that event. So let me start quickly by, how do I go? Sorry. Just give me a moment, sorry. Okay. Okay. The Suez Canal, is the screen clear? Can I check with Karim?
Yes, Your Excellency. Yes,
okay.
I can see. I can see
okay.
the screen very well. I hope
okay.
everyone does as well.
Okay. All right. So, very quick introduction to the economic zone. The economic zone is really located around the main international maritime routes. It's on the eastern and western sides of the Suez Canal itself, where almost 10% of international trade passes through the canal. Over 18,000 ships are passing through annual, and 10% of the seaboard trade. The economic zone is comprised of 6 ports and 4 industrial zones. Collectively, it is an area of 460 square kilometers, 460 million square meters of area. And that really gives very particular characteristics to each one of the zones and each one of the ports. I'll go quickly through each one of them, but you will find it in the presentation later on as a printed copy. So I'll start with the SOKHNA integrated zone, which is the most important and the biggest area we have. It's on the southern side at the Gulf of Suez. It is nearly 210 square kilometers of industrial zones. It's basically oriented to heavy industries as well as medium and light industries that will be supporting that. It is an area that is already developed, and we have a number of investment companies there, a number of developers working over there, industrial developers, I mean. And the zone itself is well established and enjoys good level of infrastructure. The other slide that I would need to talk about is the within the integrated zone is the accessibility for utilities within the zone, which is a very important element for the readiness and the availability of infrastructure, whether immediately now or in the near future to be provided. We also have the Port Said integrated zone on the north, which is comprised really of a greenfield new industrial zone that is attached to Port Said East Port, which is one of the best ports that we have in Egypt. It is growing tremendously in terms of its operation. I can happily say that this year, in spite of COVID-19 and whatever circumstances, this port is experiencing a growth of 20% in relation to 2019. So Port Said Integrated Zone is a very important zone to us. It's a green field. It comprises 63 square kilometers of area that is ready also for development and for projects to materialize there. We have also the Kantara West Industrial Zone, which is west of the Suez Canal, very adjacent to governorates of Ismailia and Sharqiya. And that is an area that is close also to ports, but not as close as Port Said or SOKHNA. And it has its platform for show also when we go to the opportunities. Of course, in each one of these zones I'm showing you, we are showing the accessibility in terms of connection and to access to utilities that are either currently available or going to be available within our next stage. Ismailia East is the fourth area, which is used to be called the Technology Valley. We are branding it now as East Ismailia, and that's also another area that is going to be offered for investments and for specific projects that will take place in this area. If we go to the ports, as I mentioned, we have 6 ports, 3 on the Mediterranean, 3 on the Gulf of Suez, and Sinai. So the Mediterranean, there are East Port Said, West Port Said, and El Arish. And in the southern area, we will have SOKHNA Port, which you're seeing on this slide, and Adabiya and El Tor in Sinai itself. So each of these ports has its own characteristics, its own capacity, its own specialization, and the literature related to each one of these is within the slides that I'm going to leave with you. So because I really need to go and talk about the strategy itself and the way forward, but I thought it's important to show you a bit of the characteristics of each of these ports that we have. Naturally, once we're talking about the current situation of the economic zone, it's important also to mention that we have a good number of financial incentives and non-financial incentives as well. So it's important to note that the economic zone is really geared for exportation, and accordingly, projects in the zone enjoy 0% custom tax, 0% value-added tax, and a special arrangement for corporate tax incentives for 7 years that is being provided through the investment law that has been referred to in the earlier presentation by Her Excellency, the Minister of Planning. In addition to indirect incentives, non-financial, especially to projects that are labor-intensive industries or high technology industries, and the zone and the administration within the zone really can contribute into the utilities cost, the manpower training, and the facilitation of the payment of the fees for the rental of lands within the zone itself. The current situation, as I have shown before, maybe some of you have seen the slide. As we mentioned, this is collectively what we have. We have 460 million square meters we have of land area between industrial zones and ports. The ports itself goes up to maybe something in the neighborhood of 100 million, and the rest is industrial areas. We have currently 14 industrial developers that are operating within the zone. 3 main port operators are already established and operating in our ports. We have currently in the neighborhood of 250 operational establishments. I would say something in the neighborhood of 50 are service providers, but remaining are productive industries and factories within the zone itself. The investment that has been put into the economic zone, whether by the investors or the government in specifically in the infrastructure, exceeds $20 billion by now, and it created more than 100,000 jobs as we stand for the current. So this is the current situation where we stand, we also have introduced a good level, a good platform of infrastructure. As you can see in the slide, that power and water supply, water treatment, natural gas, there is a very good base right now for the allowance and the provision of infrastructure in all ports and in all infrastructure industrial requirements for the zone. But we also have a very aggressive plan for providing more into the requirements of the zone in terms of infrastructure requirements that is taking place also within the coming few years. A little bit about the details of these utilities and infrastructure in terms of their number, its capacities, and the type of investment that is put over there. You can see it in these two slides related to the power and to the water supply, as well as the water treatment and communication and gas availability. The regional context of the zone, it really addresses the region altogether from north to south. And it shows here the relationship with Cairo, with the new administrative city, and how we are addressing and benefiting for this zone in becoming a regional, in a regional context and connectivity. This is actually something that we're proud of. This is something that really took place in the last 5 years since the establishment of the zone, by providing the area with a lot of high quality, world-class connectivity, whether it is within the tunnels that you can see in the slide at Port Said and Ismailia, which are operational now, or the roads that are running east and west of the Suez Canal itself, from north to south, that are providing a high level of connectivity between the east of the canal and the inwards of the country. And this has really made a significant improvement and significant ease of connectivity to the zones and the ports within the area. As well as the African roads network, and this is a very important element in terms of the relation to the African continent, and how we are looking into Egypt becoming a gateway to Africa. And having the economic zone as the gateway from Egypt to Africa as well. And this is something we are considering, and we're working on it very seriously. The red line you're seeing here, which is the main important one here, which is the Cairo-Cape Town road, which is 11,000 kilometers. A good part of this road is already constructed, and I presume from my discussions with my colleagues and other stakeholders in Egypt, this is going to be completed and operational in due time in the next year or two. So that also provides very good connectivity to Africa. And that will bring me to the second part, and the important part I would like to discuss with you here is the strategic approach for the economic zone, which we're calling it 2020-2025. This is where we're focusing on our strategy and making use of where do we stand now and where we want to go. As I've maybe presented before, the vision of the economic zone remains the same, of becoming a leading world-class economic hub and a preferred destination for investment. This is our vision. We're working on this vision, but what we're going to try to show you here is how we're moving from this vision into implementing it on different levels. In this slide, I had a 5-year horizon. These are the 6 elements that we called them at the time key strategic orientations. This is a slide that I presented in London last January. And at the time, we were starting our new strategy and looking into how we can implement that. 2 months later, we had COVID-19, of course, but this didn't prevent us from going ahead and trying to improve and try to work on all these elements in relation to our strategy and make sure that this strategy addresses all our needs and all our targets in a preferred manner. So we went to further from this into outlining our strategy and our objectives. And we currently are working on a number of very key elements to adapt the strategy. I'll go through them very quickly, and I will give examples of what we're doing here. But we're basically also preparing for the post-COVID world and the new normal and where to go from there. So one important element in our objectives is to create investment opportunities in industrial and maritime sectors. We are taking the initiative from the zone. We are studying all the requirements. We're narrowing down our targeted industries and targeted investments to be able to focus on them and to create the opportunity as you will see in the coming slides. We are trying to localize targeted industries to subsidize inputs. Actually, this is kind of a mandate that we are getting from the government. That we are to localize in the economic zone industries and give priorities for those to replace imports to the country. And this is something that is being worked out right now. We are adapting industrial clusters policy. And by that, we have already developed the first cluster and the first company that you may have heard about it in the morning, which is the rolling stock factory that is going to be established in Bir Said. And this is the first cluster related to rolling stock and to the supply chain that works along that. We are establishing a setup of tire factories in SOKHNA area. You've heard earlier from Ahmed Mikki about the fiber cables factory also that's going to be in SOKHNA area. So the clustering is a very important policy that we are adapting. And in the coming slides, I'm going to be talking also about what other sectors and what other clusters that we are working on and providing as areas of opportunity. Infrastructure is very important to us. We have invested in excess of 30 or 35 billion pounds right now in infrastructure provisions for the zone. But that's not the limit. We're investing more into this and making sure that not only that we have sufficient infrastructure, but we mean to have it at a world-class level, whether within the ports itself or within the industrial areas. Also, we're capitalizing on the role of the global logistic hub and aim to be an international supply chain. So we're giving great importance to the logistic area and to this domain altogether. Continuing on our objectives, we have target investment and attract international shipping lines to the port. I mentioned a bit earlier something about East Port Said and the growth that took place there. I can proudly say that we have managed to make new business irrespective of the situation of COVID-19, and we've attracted more lines to maritime lines, and actually all our ports, or most of our ports, are doing really a good job right now. So we're working on this initiative as well. We'll give it more incentives, and I think we're going to see the result of that also very soon. We're also introducing somehow an effective mechanism for maritime services and bunkering. Bunkering facilities is one of the things that we are focused on very much. We are in discussion with a number of stakeholders in the government in Egypt, and we are aggressively going to be pursuing bunkering services within the economic zone, and very clear opportunities are going to be portrayed in this domain. One of the main objectives of the zone, and will remain one, is to develop platform for SMEs, and this is something that will go more into the agribusiness and so on. So this is something that is being considered as well. And we're introducing a new dimension by establishing a financial and a commercial and service centers within the zone. This is something to support our ports and to support the logistics and industrial areas, but we will be establishing at different levels financial services, commercial services, and services at all the areas within the zone. And we're going to be portraying specific opportunities in that regard. And finally, we are launching a new business identity and organizational reforms within the economic zone. This has already started. We have already amended our executive regulations. We are amending our law, and we're in discussion with a number of stakeholders in Egypt that also will make our organization benefit more from the incentives we have, and even give more incentives and more organizational reforms within the authority itself. To be able to do that, I've showed this before. These are the 5 main pillars for our strategy implementation, how we're moving from our vision into implementing the objectives that I have just shown you. So we have 5 pillars. Is basically to set up the ecosystem and readiness for the economic zone all collectively. We are working on the regulatory framework. We are working on the financial incentives, and we're working on the service level provided within the zone, and finally the cost positioning of the zone and the competitiveness of the zone. Each one of these pillars has its own subtasks that we are working on, and I can safely say that each and every one of these 5 and its subgrades are being considered, and we are working in each and every one of them. Naturally, some of them are more in progress than others, but we are working in all fronts to be able to reach our target and to reach our objective and achieving our objectives. I'll skip this one now for the sustainability, but I go for the implementation of the pillars I've showed you. We have a short-term plan and we have a long-term plan, but we're focusing really in achieving the short-term plan within 2020-2025. And as I mentioned, we're working on a number of items there that are already in progress and achieved. Now, to go to the investment opportunities, when we started the economic zone in 2015, and with the study of the promised sectors and so on, we had something in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 sectors that were identified for potential investment in the zone. But what we have done recently is we've looked into the investment opportunities that are really the focus of 2020-2025, what we can achieve in this 5-year plan, and we want to go aggressively on them. And we have identified particular sectors that are of interest, and we believe that there is whether regional or African or Egyptian requirement for each and every one of them. So what you're seeing here is a combination of the sectors that we are addressing. Each one of these we have identified carefully. We've worked with international consultants on that to identify the business opportunity. We've made what we may call the deep dive analysis to each one of them, and we'll be ready to offer particular business opportunities in each and every one of them, as I've just mentioned. So collectively between these sectors, and as I've mentioned in the beginning, that all our industrial zone and ports are very diverse in their characteristics and what they can offer. So each of these sectors will be more suitable in one sector or one location, I'm sorry, versus the other. So my next slides, I will not go through them in details, but I'll leave it for yourselves till we can meet in person and discuss with you each and every business opportunity. Talks about what we can offer in each of these services and opportunities. As I've mentioned, because of the diverse location and characteristics of each of the ports and industrial zones, we have identified where each of these services can be located. And if I want to go through them quickly, bunkering is one of our most important sectors that we are pursuing right now. We already are in discussion with a number of providers, and I think the market will be open quite soon for this service to be provided. Once it is available, so maritime services in the Suez Canal area and the economic zone can reach up to 20 or more sub-services within that, starting from the bunkering itself all the way to slopes collection, sludge collection, crew changes, classification, societies inspection, and all sorts of maritime services that are going to be related to this. And it's a business that we feel very much is going to grow into the market and into the economic zone itself. The second sector is casting, and this is another area that we feel very strong about. We are seeing a good opportunity in the market. It's a very attractive opportunity, and we are pursuing it clearly now, and we can have very competitive advantages serving both the European and North African markets. And this is an opportunity that also is going to be portrayed in specific projects to be offered after we complete our deep dive and come up with a specific business opportunity on that that we can be talking to interested companies. The next is data centers. As well, you'll be seeing here the macro level characteristics of why we're picking it and why it is competitive in the zone. So I will not go through the details, but as I've mentioned, in each one of these, we have the deep dive and we'll have the pitch back that will be talking with you in details. Logistics is a very important sector that is really the heart of the economic zone, whether in the northern side in SOKHNA, in Port Said, or the southern part in SOKHNA. And this is something also that we are pursuing and coming up with very clear opportunities on. Automotive parts. Automotive in general is an opportunity, but we're breaking it down to a number of sub-items. So automotive parts, BEV, is also an area that we're seeing great opportunity for it. And there are already discussions with particular suppliers that have interest in the zone to provide such business. Agribusiness is also the sixth sector that we are considering, and with Qantara Gharb specifically, which is very close to manpower in trained manpower actually in the governorate of Ismailia and Sharqiya is very suitable for the agribusiness. And that will have a number of opportunities that are also portrayed. Solar PV in East Ismailia is a very important project that we're also going to be showing you. Next is going to be pharmaceutical, and we have a very ambitious scheme in pharmaceutical, and that will really bridge a gap within the region that we feel the economic zone can play a good role in this sector. Building material is the following, sorry. So we have a good market for building materials as well in different areas. And textile will be our next one, which is another area that is also of great importance as well. I've mentioned something about the rolling stock, which is, let me take a minute in this. It's a factory that is being established to cover the electrical rolling stock requirement of the railway program of Egypt. And that will extend to exporting to the African continent. And this is one of the examples of how we're approaching our next strategy, our new strategy, is looking into the opportunity, coming up with linking the stakeholders together and establishing the proper vehicular for this to take place, then supporting it with the supply chain and the feeding industries that will also benefit and make us work on the localization of particular industries within the zone that can serve the country and serve the region as well. I'll stop here and just ask you, please, that I'll be happy, of course, to answer any of your questions, but more importantly I would like to be able soon enough to share with you the downstream of these opportunities, and I'm sure there is quite common grounds for discussion that can take place very soon. Thank you all. Thank you, Karim.
Thank you very much, Engineer Zaki. This was quite elaborative and comprehensive, and I'm sure everyone is looking forward to receiving the documentation that you've shared with us. May I please just ask everyone as a point of order, now that we move into the Q&A session, I'm inviting everyone, you can turn on, your video enabling so we can see you, but please do stay on mute. So we don't get so many interruptions. Unmute yourself only when you are speaking, and please, you can either by normal show of hands on the video, and I can see if you want to ask something, or you can use the option of raise your hand on the Zoom on the Zoom system. We've run a little bit slightly over the time that we wanted to, but I think it was quite interesting. However, we still have around 40 to 45 minutes for the Q&As. So may I just invite whoever wants to start with the first question. So Lilwin Banks Hughes, I can see you on the video. Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hello, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning to everybody. I have a question. Very interested in the bunkering side of things. Egypt was traditionally a very big bunkering center. More recently, it's gone downhill a bit and it's lost its way. But I think there's a lot of interest in bringing it back. I was wondering what requirements and parameters you have for selecting bunkering companies to get involved. Also, have you got any lined up already? I know there's talks going on that engineers, as mentioned, but how many bunkering companies are you hoping to attract, and where will they be coming from? And also, do you know when they will start, when they will be given permission to start bunkering there? So wide amount of questions about bunkering, but maybe you can clarify some of those points.
Okay, bunkering, as you've mentioned, is something we're starting. We've lost some time on that, but it's never too late. So we're starting now. Now, what we have is twofold. Let me try to answer this quickly, then I can send you more details if you wish. The first is we're always receiving expression of interest from companies from around the world, okay? Not a specific nationality, but the companies that are operating around the world are always showing interest. And whether through their visits to the economic zone or through the meetings we had with them, but recently the tempo got higher and higher with our appetite for opening up for the business. So we're receiving expressions of interest. I can say safely, I'm not at liberty of mentioning names, but we have at least 3 or 4 serious interests that are being looked at right now. Now, how we are pursuing it, we are looking into issuing like a TOR, okay, to specify our requirements and to specify the services that are provided. Naturally, as you know, as an expert in bunkering, it starts from C to C, then it grows on. So we're having it phased somehow, and we have a clear TOR that is going to be issued now. It's almost complete, and based on that, it's going to be let me say, on a license basis. That's the business model that is going to be provided. And then we will be looking to a number of licenses. We're not looking at this stage for exclusivity, let's say. So we're looking for a number of players, whether in the northern sector or the southern sector. When is, I think, we hope we would have our first concluded deal within the first quarter of next year.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, can I just ask a quick supplementary to that? You mentioned in the slide about LNG bunkering, which obviously is a cleaner way to go about this. Are you looking for different people to do LNG bunkering, or would it be the same companies?
Well, it depends on the business providers. I mean, there is the traditional bunkering, okay? There is always going to be market for that, but we believe strongly that the future is LNG. And our deep dive studies says that we should consider LNG within our futuristic approach. So whether it is provided with the same supplier or whether it's two different suppliers. It depends on the industry itself and the suppliers. We have not reached a situation where we're considering this as one license or not. It depends on the industry itself and the providers.
Okay, thank you.
But we'll be happy to talk to whoever is interested in this, because we're definitely, as I'm trying to always say, try to make this win-win situation. So we're listening to investors, we're considering their requirements, and it's our job how to get things moving and benefit from it as well.
Okay, well, if I can be of any help at all in traditional bunkering or LNG bunkering, then hopefully you know where you can find me. I can help out.
Thank you very much. Can I ask if anyone else had another question? I'm trying to move my screen or to see everyone, but if not, please do raise your hand using the options of the raise your hand on the system. Okay, if no one has a question, if you allow me, Engineer Yehia, I do have one. Sorry, now please, Nawaz, go ahead. Please unmute yourself, Nawaz.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, Engineer Yehia. Good to see you again, and thank you for your presentation. I was just reflecting on your some of the strategic elements of your presentation, in particularly to do with rolling stock, the localization capability and the linking in with the African continent. I wanted to just ask a little bit about freight, whether there's a strategy around freight interconnectivity with the ports as part of the wider sort of economic plan. And I just wonder whether you can tell me anything about that. And then the other part was from the UK's side of Siemens rail electrification, we've got quite a good capability of pre-planning really major infrastructure on the rail side and trying to develop power provision sort of plans. So just wanted to find out the engagement strategy around those kind of services and how they can get access to your wider plans for rolling stock and freight.
Okay, Nawaz, good to see you again as well. Well, rolling stock is, as I've mentioned, a very important element to us, and we are providing this in the industrial greenfield of East Port Said. And to be able to do that and to also give the right infrastructure development for the area altogether, we are embarking into a very aggressive project for providing a railway in east of the canal as well. If you're familiar with the rail network in Egypt, there is now a provision for what we call Fardan Bridge. It's the bridge crossing the Suez Canal itself. It's an existing bridge, but it's being extended. And that will provide a terminal, let's say, on the east side of the canal. But that is going to be extended to East Port Said Port and to El Arish at a different level. So connectivity through rail and freight is going to be available, not immediately, but it's going to be one of our aggressive infrastructure projects that's being under discussion clearly right now. With the introduction of the rolling stock project, and as I mentioned, this is with local and technology partners. We're looking into increasing the local component within these rolling stock units from 20% at the start to something in the neighborhood of 45% in 4 or 5 years. That is a big part that is being considered, and accordingly technology partners are really the name of the game for the next stage. Siemens, of course, can have its role in the further discussions that we're having. The company is established. The factory will start construction, and the factory will start with a maintenance contract for the metro lines in a year's time from now. But our first product will be like mid-2022. And so there is some time available for these discussions. We, as the economic zone, we wear two hats here because we're the regulator, and in the same time, we have some stock into the company itself, just to get things moving on the right track. This is part of our strategy and business models different business models that are being considered.
Thank you very much, Nawaz. Thank you, Engineer Yehia. I have 3 more questions, Engineer Yehia. Let me take them by the order in which I received them. So the first one is from AK, who advises his apologies because he or she, I'm sorry, I don't know the name, is in a rather noisy environment. So he or she sent the question by text. What is the status of the SOKHNA port and a potential investment in liquid bulk ports? That's the first question, Engineer Yehia.
SOKHNA port is actually, in terms of area, is the biggest area of a port in Egypt. Okay, so it has huge potential. SOKHNA port had what we call first basin, that is in operation for some time. But there is within the master plan basin 2, and basin 2 is being completed this year and is going into operation. Actually, it is in provisional operation right now, but officially it is in operation this month. So that increases the capacity of the port, whether for containers or for dry bulk and cargo. So that's the status. Then we have Basin 3, which is I think you've mentioned Sonkar, or I've seen in the comment Sonkar. This is where we have a specialized terminal there for the liquid treatment and so on. Now, there was another part of the question related to liquid terminals, I think, or?
Yes, liquid bulk ports, Engineer Yehia.
Okay.
A potential future investments in the sector of liquid bulk ports.
Yes, of course. This is available in Adabiya port, available in El Tor port, and in SOKHNA as well.
Very good. I'll move to the next question, Engineer Yehia. It's coming from Mohammed Abu Zdera of Cisco. He's asking what would be the SCZone vision on digitizing the ports, services, IT management, etc., and the use of IT as a service.
That's a very important element. We are trying, when we reach 2025, that would be fully digitized. We are working now on a very aggressive scheme on that. We're receiving offers. And what I intend to do, what I'm planning to do, is to have 100% digitized operation no later than 2025. A complete digitalization for the whole system. That doesn't mean we don't have it now. We have some steps here and there, but we're going all the way. We're promising a world-class level of digitalization for all our activities, not only in the ports, but the ports, the industrial areas, the logistics, and all the services that we are looking for. Don't forget, I've mentioned part of our objective is to introduce more financial and more commercial services. So that also will tie into the digitalization approach that we're looking at.
Thank you, Engineer Yehia. I'll move to the next question. I have a hand raised by David Butter. David, go ahead, please, and unmute yourself before speaking.
Thank you, Excellency. I have a question about East Port Said. Well, two questions, really. First is, I've seen data showing that the transshipment through the port has been quite significantly up this year. I'm looking at data from COSCO up to end of September, and that's interesting, obviously, in the wider context. And I wonder if you had any explanation for why that might happen. And also related to that, any updates on potential for a new container terminal at East Port Said? Thank you.
Okay, two important questions. The first question is, yes, we've seen considerable growth in East Port Said terminal this year, and in spite of whatever the whole world is going through. But basically, this is a business approach that exactly the same time last year, even before COVID-19, we had a discussion with the operator on how can we improve the business. And we've looked into giving further incentives and looking into operating the tunnels that made a considerable difference to that. And we've arranged special, I would say, steps into easing doing the business over there. And that paid off and got the volumes increased. And with COVID and with the situation in dealing within the first 6 months of this year, it was a good opportunity for East Port Said Port to work onto the situation. And actually, comparing the first 6 months this year with last year, there is a huge difference between in that respect. Now, and we hope to keep going the coming years, not with the same rate, but with at least going to have a positive indicators related to the volume and the trade in East Port Said. In your second question about the availability of further terminals, yes, it's available. The economic zone, Egypt, and other stakeholders have embarked in 2015 in extending East Port Said Port in specific, and we have an additional 5 kilometers of terminals that are available for either containers or dry bulk. Some of them are already concluded as concessions and contracts, not in containers, but in other dry bulk and Ro-Ro terminals. But there are yet available yards for concession agreements that can be considered immediately.
Thank you, Engineer Yehia. The next question is coming from Jack Liu. Jack, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Karim, and really appreciate for your presentation, Mr. Yehia. My name is Jack Liu. I'm working for HSBC as a China desk manager, and my question is actually related to our Chinese business. As I can see from the past few years, there are more and more Chinese investors in Egypt, especially related to light railway in 6th of October, and the main constructor of the new administrator city in near the New Cairo, and also the high-speed railway project, which is all related to our Chinese investor. And I have recently been to the TIDA area, which is near the SOKHNA Economic Zone. And as I can see, there are more and more Chinese investors interested into investing in Egypt. And so do you have any like a general suggestion for the Chinese investor, and especially related to if they want to register in the economic zone, they want to register in the free zone? So what criteria will there be? So really appreciate. Thank you.
Okay. Well, let me start saying that we do appreciate, of course, the Chinese investments and connection into the economic zone. I'm proud with and happy with the establishments that are over there. And we have within the jobs created within the zone, direct jobs, a good number of Chinese origin living in the zone, and they are part of the zone now. So we look forward for further, definitely, investments to come. We're addressing TEDA and other problems that arise from time to time, and we're making sure that we overcome all the problems and solve any logistics that are related to their way of doing business. And part of the improvement and the reformation of our organization is to enhance our procedures and to digitize our procedures and to make our one-stop shop much more effective and much timely in terms of completing all our registrations and so on. I can say that there's going to be a great improvement in that in the next phase. I'm happily saying that our guide for the customs is being issued last month, and that made a lot of relief to a number of companies that are operating in the zone. We are about to issue the revisions of the internal regulations, which will give approval of the guidelines for dealing with the local market. So that will also solve a number of issues that have been raised recently by TEDA or other Chinese investors in relation to dealing with the local market. So we are working hand in hand. We appreciate their support. We appreciate their patience. But we're collectively reaching a good standing position on that.
Thank you very much, Engineer
Really
Yehia.
appreciate Mr. Yehia. Yes. Go ahead.
Jack,
Thank you.
You're done, or you have another question, Jack? Because
I'm done, but I just want to give a general feedback. Yeah.
Please.
No.
Please,
I just have a general feedback that our Chinese company already feel it's more easier to deal in the business in the economic zone than dealing the business out of the economic zone. So it's quite positive feedback. Really appreciate Mr. Yehia. Thank you so much.
Well, very much appreciated positive feedback on the zone, and we will make sure to transmit your other feedback to the other stakeholders in the Egyptian government to make sure that you're very well received on both sides of Egypt, either within or outside of the zone. Let me move, if I may, Engineer Yehia, if no one else is raising hands. I do have an important question I would like to personally ask Your Excellency. You touched base in your presentation about the cost positioning and the competitiveness positioning, and as well as about the crystallization of the financial business model of $20 billion spent so far. That is 20 billion out of how much? How are we going to cater for the business model going forward? Are we going to go after BOTs or PPPs or EPC plus finance? How do you strategize the financial business model of the zone?
Now, what has been spent in the zone, whether by the government or by the investors themselves in the establishments and the factory, reaches this amount of 20 billion. What we are looking for is a number of approaches. One is further investment in the infrastructure, which is a very important element. I think in the next 5 years, I'm not sure about the figures, but we will be looking into something in the neighborhood of 10, maybe 15, 20 billion pounds to be invested in infrastructure projects. This is a very important element for us. And as I said, we are determined to have the world-class infrastructure at its best. So we are not saving any penny in that, and we're making sure it's all spent in the right place to provide the proper infrastructure. Now, in terms of investment opportunities, well, the sky's the limit, but we have a plan that we would like, as I mentioned, in the 10 sectors that we have selected, to come up with specific opportunities in each one of them, and collectively, each one of them is going to have a targeted budget that we can add together and declare in few months, maybe in a month or two, inshallah.
I was asking any other questions from anyone else. If not, I do have another one. If you allow me, Engineer Yahya, if no one has other questions.
And I just want to add one thing, Karim,
please, please.
Because I didn't deliberately put it in the presentation, but it's something that we're pursuing also, is the reintroduction of QIZ projects in the zone. Okay, the economic zone is equipped and is qualified to receive projects classified under the QIZ. And as you know, the economic zone is basically set for exportation, and it has the right incentives, and we're increasing that for exportation. So adding up QIZ qualification and the incentives of exportation, one of the sectors, or one of the approaches that we are pursuing aggressively is the QIZ approach. So I welcome any of the British companies or Egyptian companies to this extent that would want to consider working within the umbrella of the QIZ, because we're giving it a very special importance at the time, and going to give it the proper platform for it to materialize.
Thank you very much, Engineer Yahya. If no one else has questions, I do have a combination of two important questions that I do think I have the duty to ask them, because they have the state of mind of every investor, British or others. And let me take them one by one, if you allow me, Engineer Yahya. The first one: are we going to be more focused? Are you going to be on the 14 sectors that you thankfully elaborated to us that have been identified by the zone? Are we going to be waiting for non-solicited offers from investors, or are we going to, on our side as a zone, identify the projects and then go solicit the investors through a bidding or a tendering normal process? That would be my first question. And let me ask the second one. Two important entities have been established, one in 2015 and one more recently in Egypt. So this, the SCZone in 2015, but more recently we've seen a growing role for the Sovereign Fund of Egypt. And a lot of people are asking about the assurance of the degree of complementarity between the two entities and rather competition between the two entities. So allow me to ask this question for the benefit of everyone participating.
Sure. In relation to how we're approaching the opportunities, both ways, yeah, Karim. And we're not going with one methodology. We're opening up with a number of approaches. So once we've identified the sectors, which we did, and once we identified the subsectors and the opportunities there, we'll have our own pitch packs, and we will go directly to the companies that are identified to be able to discuss this on a one-to-one basis. That doesn't mean the other way around doesn't work. I mean, once we've announced these opportunities, and we'll make sure that it is well published, we will be happily looking into how to react with the investors as well, and come up with a proper business model. So there isn't a very specific one that suits all sectors. So we'll work on both at the same time. Sovereign Fund of Egypt is not in competition, it's complementary. Yeah, I have to say that because I'm sitting on their board as well. So, so it's the mandate is different, and actually they are co-partners in the rolling stock factory, the economic zone. So the mandate for the sovereign fund is different than the mandate of the economic zone, definitely. And there are areas where we can be in complementary and support and promotional approach collectively. So no, I'm not seeing any sort of competition there. It's by all means more support and more complementary than being in competition.
So maybe I can give Your Excellency another 5 to 7, whatever your concluding remarks you would like to share with us to get into closure phase.
Well, I think what I wanted to deliver in this message is the readiness of the economic zone to embark into the next 5 years. In spite of the very strange year that we're all experiencing. But we all have to look into the post-COVID and what will take place. And as we all know, whenever we have challenges, there is opportunity. And we need to really address the opportunities in the proper manner. We're doing what we can. We're doing our best in the zone to ease the way of doing business and to really provide a much better environment for doing the business within the zone. And we're starting to see the results of that. And that will hopefully have the proper effect and will generate more and more work as we've done in the port of East Port Said. We'll be doing, and as we've done in the rolling stock, we will be identifying the approaches, we'll be identifying the projects, and I'm confident that we can reach our objective strongly while we're going in the coming years. Maybe because we are in this virtual meeting, it was always my pleasure to be attending BEBA and EBCC's events for, I cannot remember how many years. So it's a privilege to be participating this year as well. And I hope we'll be able to meet in person very soon and resume our discussions and our workshops as well.
Engineer Yehia, allow me to try to conclude by first of all thanking you in person and thanking BEBA and EBBC for organizing this. I have also participated in BEBA missions for probably a little bit less years than you have done, but it's the first time I moderate your panel with Your Excellency. I've been privileged and honored. Allow me to conclude by thanking everyone and to reiterate. So the presentation will be available. It will be shared via the organizers. Of course, we all welcome any further questions you want to direct to Engineer Zaki. We can also channel them to his mail and to his office and attend as liaison, us and BEBA and EBBC. We're here to help you and support you and hopefully fix any hurdles that you encounter to come and invest in the SCZone. Ian, would you like to say a couple of two final quick remarks?
Well, all I would like to say on behalf of the organizers, and I think on behalf of everyone who's been listening today, it's a big thanks to you, Karim, and a big and special thanks to you, sorry, Your Excellency, I'm sorry, I've known you too long. There we are. But no, I think that was, as some of the comments were, it was a very clear presentation. And I think the exciting thing for us, kind of, I look forward to the day when we've got a couple of big British projects into the Suez Canal Zone that we can hold up as case studies and models, because some of the advantages are very clear. And I thank you for the presentation. I thank you, Karim, for moderating and managing us through today. So thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you.